But if you can realize that whatever is happening to you is happening for you, because you're going to grow from it. My life is 1,000 stories of, holy crap, seriously? You grow from it. I was so clear on the goal of recovering that it was really hard and frustrating. But my goal for the future was so strong, it just kept pulling me.
Today we have a special guest in studio. Scott and I go way back. I knew him for several years, and then we did a feature-length documentary together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, your credits here are you're a personal trainer and an ultra-distance triathlete, and you're the subject of an award-winning feature-length documentary. So you're also the former owner of a gym in Sylvan Lake. You're a prominent member of the Sylvan Lake community. That's where you reside with your wife and son, Caden.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks for coming. Mm-hmm. We're excited to hear what you have to say. So your gym closed. Tell us a little bit about that, the challenge.
Yeah, we ran the gym for 18 years, 15,000 square foot gym, 27 staff and 1,000 members. It was kind of a big deal. It was a big part of Sylvan Lake, big part of the community. And March 17th, during that 4-letter swear word, the government shut everything down and said we weren't allowed to do anything anymore. And at first we were going to fight. At first we were going to, in the sense that we were going to do at-home workouts, we were going to do at-home challenges, and I was going to be at the gym every day filming classes, and we were going to do all kinds of stuff like that. At first we were just going to really fight. And for like 2 days, that was kind of what we were going to do. I had to let all the staff go and cancel all the memberships, and everything stopped. And then I just got an overwhelming feeling, I say came right through from God, and just said, hey, just stop it. It's over. Let it go. And I was like, whoa, really? I've been doing this for 18 years. This is how I define myself. I work 80 hours a week. This is my second home. But the feeling was so crystal clear that it was over. And I thought, okay, I need to be able to explain this rationally. So I took an Excel spreadsheet and I wrote down all the costs and how much a 15,000 square foot building costs empty with no income, even with any things that the banks or whatever were doing. And it was a train wreck. And so I just realized it was over. And so I changed gears. I told my staff on Saturday. We told the world on Saturday afternoon, and we sold off all our equipment. And within a month and a half, the building was empty, and we started looking for somebody to rent it out. And we actually found a church, ironically, that moved in, and they are now renting the space. So that took a while to get that to happen. So they started in October, and it's been amazing. It was truly the biggest gift to be set free from running a huge business. Was it traumatic? Absolutely. Do I still miss the people? Yeah. But it's the biggest gift I've ever had. It's been amazing. So yeah, now I get to do what I love. Now I get to coach people, and I get to work with people. I've renovated 2 bays of the garage at our house into a little gym, and I train with some people one-on-one, and I do lots of online stuff on coaching, on nutrition. So I get to do all the stuff I love without all the stuff I didn't love. Like, owning a business is owning a business. It doesn't matter if it's a pizza joint or a gym. You're dealing with staff, you're dealing with broken equipment, you're dealing with angry members, happy members, sales, marketing, taxes, bills, building maintenance. You're dealing with a whole myriad of stuff that has nothing to do with your passion. And now everything I do has to do with my passion. So, like, I still have marketing and stuff, but it's different.
Yeah. I love it. Like, you were just willing to go with that voice, and because that's bold. That's like, I mean, that's a step into the unknown, and like, you know, that's a tough place to go, because you're like, now how do I, you know, venture off into this, because this is my feeling, and you're just kind of going off of a gut feeling, like, okay, and you know, it's like, okay, God, what next?
So now what? Yeah.
Like, okay, how am I going to do this? But
And you're right. It was, and don't get me wrong, when I made the decision, it was so clear. It was like sights and sounds and smells were different in an instant. I knew the decision was there. Like, there was no contemplation. It was just, this is now happening. And then I ugly balled till 2 a.m. because I didn't like the decision, but I knew it was the right thing. So yeah, there was nothing about it was easy, but it was powerful. And I have to say, one of the reasons I was able to make the decision is because in 2015, I nearly died at the Ultraman World Championships. I cartwheeled down a highway at 70 kilometers an hour and broke my skull open and broke a bunch of bones and ribs and knees and things. And since then, I have a different appreciation of life, and I'm less willing to waste my time. I don't waste my time with crappy people or something that isn't serving me. Like, I let stuff go way faster. And I realized the gym was amazing, but it was over. It had done its time. And there were, like, running that business was not all sunshine and roses. I mean, there was times when it was horrible. I remember one night calling my wife and saying, hey, we're not going to make payroll in 2 days. I need you to go to our advisor and cash in $10,000 of our RSP and pull it out and put it in the account so that I can pay my staff, because we've got nothing. I can't pay them. And payroll's Thursday and it's Tuesday. I hated that. That was horrible. And we've had to do that multiple times. That's not worth it. And so it was because of the crash and having that perspective of life is precious, I was done being a martyr. I was done suffering for other people. Like, it's like, I love to care about people, but not at the cost of my own everything. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's a good mentality. I think that's what's gotten you through everything.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the crash. That was a huge rehabilitation. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the crash has lots of layers to it. And I mean, obviously we made that feature-length documentary, which won some awards, and we did a really great job of capturing a lot of pieces of it. When I was training and racing Ironman and then got into Ultraman, a 3-day triathlon, 2.5 times longer than Ironman, it was a really powerful thing, and there was a lot of neat stuff to it. But there was also the realization that in the beginning phases, like in 2011 when I got into Ultraman, I was trying to prove to myself and to the world and to my family that I was good enough. Because I still held an age-old bunch of junk from childhood that I was a loser and I wasn't good enough and nobody likes you and you're not worth anything and all that garbage. And I thought, well, if I do this crazy big race, then everybody will see that I'm good enough. Then I'll see, and then I'll feel good enough. And I started to realize eventually that feeling good enough isn't external. You need to just feel that. And I still work on that. But what was interesting from a psychological perspective in 2015 was that there's a part of my subconscious that was really committed to the reality that I'm a loser and nobody likes me and I'm unworthy of it and I'm terrible and I'm useless. That was my identity in my subconscious. And so when all of a sudden I'm at the World Championships and I'm 10th overall and I'm gaining on 9th and I'm thinking about who's 8th and I'm feeling strong, there's a part of your psychology that's really uncomfortable with success, and then it stops you. So why did I cartwheel down a highway? Well, there was some algae on the bridge deck. Well, okay, but like out of 40 athletes, nobody else spun out on that bridge. Why did I spin on the bridge? And so that became a really big exploration of, well, what are you doing here? Like, what's your driving force? And so the near-death crash became a really big opportunity to really look at myself.
Right.
And to grow and realize that, well, I'm not such a bad guy. Like, I'm okay, and I don't need to prove it externally. I'm a good person. And that's taken a long time. I'm still not, like, people say, Scott, do you love yourself? I'm like, well, I think I'm okay. Like, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm okay. Like, well, and it varies day to day. And, I think as a parent, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've done well, is if you ask my son if he loves himself, he's like, well, obviously. I was like, okay, so we did that right. Like,
What's not to love?
I know, right? Yeah, so, because life beats you up and smacks you around and has you question things.
Absolutely. I think lots of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
When you crashed and you had all these mountains of rehabilitation to overcome, did you ever struggle with the anxiety of not being able to do it?
Yeah, that was interesting. I was so clear on the goal of recovering, and I was so clear on getting back to the World Championships and getting back to whole and good again, because my son was 3 at the time, that it was really hard and frustrating. But my goal for the future was so strong, it just kept pulling me. And I'm a big believer in huge goals, big scary goals or big race goals or big whatever goals. Because to me, it's like throwing an anchor into the future that has a rubber band attached to it. And it just pulls you to it. And then when things are hard, just like when we race an Ultraman, and my crew knows this, it's like, okay, this is really hard. What are we going to do about it? And I really try to hold that as like, okay, this is really hard. What am I going to do about it? Because if you sit and marinate in the fact that it's really hard, you're in trouble. It's like, great, what are you going to do about it? I mean, and it's, we reference that 4-letter swear word, COVID, but that was really hard. Okay, great, what are you going to do about it? The government's nuts, and everything's this and everything that, great, what are you going to do about it? And I just kept coming back to, well, what's in my control? I can eat well, I can exercise, I can love my family. That's what I can do. And so I kept focusing on that. And it was the same thing when I was recovering from the crash. It's like, okay, I can't walk without tripping. I can't remember people. I can't remember how the computer software works. I can't shave my own head because my left arm had a big metal plate in it where it was broken in 3 parts. My shoulder was shattered. It had a metal plate in it. I couldn't move it more than 15 degrees. Great. What do I do about it? And I mean, I had at 3.5 years old, Caden put my socks on in the morning. And for a while, Hillary helped me shave my head. And it was like, great, what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? And I just started to seek out what other help can I find. And I did hyperbaric oxygen treatments that helped my brain heal. And I found a scientific, not a doctor, but a guy that studied neurology. And so I did all the thing with the lighted pen and the charts on the wall there were different brain exams. And I relentlessly did stuff like that. I did physio. And so it just became about, okay, how do I get through this?
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on what's wrong and what's broken, that doesn't help, right? You get more of what you focus on. So I just kept focusing on getting to the goal and improving somehow. And sometimes it was micromillimeters per day. It's still progress.
Yeah, I think that's,
Forward is a pace.
Right.
Forward is a pace. That's, yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I really believe that's why, your story was so inspiring. That's it was incredible making a movie about that. And there's so many layers that you describe there. And of course, the movie delves into a lot of that. But I love that we can take, those, the whole, fitness and apply that to life. Okay, how do I get through this? Or like getting, having a goal. And I think, just even in my own life, like being able to do fitness, it challenges me. And then it just, okay, well, I did this. I ran a half marathon. Well, I can do this. It's like, yours is, you did a comeback. You came back from like rock bottom crashing. So that's inspiring. But I think like every one of us can take that to our own lives and say, okay, what can I do? Life's dealt me a bad hand right now, but like it's all in how we look at it. And I think I love that you say like what motivated you to get through it. Well, you described your family that they're in your heart. Like that's what moves you to get out of that hard place you're at, right?
Yeah, and there's so many pieces to that, Drew. Like, life's dealt me a bad hand. Maybe, or maybe it's the best hand you've ever been dealt. It just doesn't look like the hand you thought you were going to get dealt. And that's hard to do when you're in the crap of it. But if you can realize that whatever is happening to you is happening for you, because you're going to grow from it. My life is 1,000 stories of holy crap, seriously? But you grow from it, right? And what you said too, like what I love about exercise is strength training or marathon training or whatever exercise, you're willingly going towards something that's going to be hard. That's going to be heavy. That run is going to be long. And you're going there willingly because that's a practice in getting stronger. That's a practice. And then life is just the same thing. And you look at my recovery and you think, okay, so you smashed your skull open and you had a brain injury and you broke your arm in 3 pieces, you broke your shoulder in 4 pieces, you broke your ribs, you broke your knee, all that stuff. And then once that was fixed, then you were good, right? No. No. We got the metal pieces put in, and then they were in for 7 months, and then they pulled the metal back out. So then, of course, rehab starts all over. And my shoulder, I had frozen shoulder. My arm could only move 15 degrees. So then the physio had to stretch it every day, which was unreal painful. And then, okay, so the shoulder's starting to work enough that I could swim. It was lopsided, but I could swim. Okay, so I'm training again. I start running again. Man, every time I start running past 16, 18 kilometers, my knee is screaming and it hurts and all that. And then I was goofing around playing a game and I got tackled and my knee went crack pop and made a huge noise, and I just suddenly I'm sweating and I'm in shock and what's going on. And then they did an MRI and they're like, oh yeah, you actually tore your MCL and tore a big chunk of cartilage when you crashed, but we didn't notice it because that wasn't important. You had a hole in your skull. That was what we focused on. So we didn't notice that your knee was trashed. So you're gonna need surgery for that. Oh, here we go again, right? So then I had knee surgery. And of course, that's a whole multi-month waiting period to get in and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I got my knee surgery. Okay, cool. And then a couple months later, then I was in my first Ironman back, right? It was an Ironman Coeur d'Alene, 2017. My knee was 6 weeks off of surgery, and it was a challenging race, but I got a check mark and I got it done. Okay, so then it was smooth sailing to Ultraman, right? No. Then the next spring, I was in training camp in Arizona in February, and I still had the brain issues where it's like my brain and my body were just a little bit out of sync. My brain was a few microseconds behind, and I tripped running full speed down a mountain. Put my hands out to stop me, dislocated 6 fingers, gloved one right down to the ligaments and bones, flopped it over and folded it beside the other one, and sprained my other one. I had to have my fingers basically not quite reattached, but close. It had to be pulled back and put in and sewed all together. And now I can't move my hand so now I can't swim, I can't hold a bicycle. Are you kidding me? Right? So this was, so then there you go again. So, but that led me to finding a specialist in Germany who worked on brain health, and like the journey is never straightforward. Life is never straightforward. It's lumps and bumps and ups and downs. And the whole time, it's like allowing that moment of like, oh, come on. And then it's like, okay, what am I going to do about it? How do I get out of this? Where do I go from here? Great, my fingers are wrecked. Can you sew them back together? Awesome. When can I do therapy, right? And it's just that next step, that next step, that next step. And this was everything.
But you never lost sight of the goal.
No.
Like that's what's cool about it, is like, you know, that drive like gets you over it, right? Like you know, how many of us are just like, oh, again, okay, I'm done. But I think it's so much more rewarding when you can just push through it and then make your goal. Because like, I mean, how amazing is that? Like when you look back at all of those struggles and trials, then you made it to the finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's like, there's still more after that, but then you made it to that finish line. I mean, that's amazing. Like that is like, it just makes it so much more incredible, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's such a big thing for life. It's like, well, what's your goal? Because if you have a powerful goal, then everything is easier. Because it's like, do you want to do this? No, that takes me away from my goal. Do you want to do this? That takes me to my goal. Yes. It's just easier. But I run into so many people who don't have a goal. They're just kind of, I guess I'll have another day. And I'll have another day. And I'll have another day. Okay. Well, that's one way to do it. But in that scenario, to me, it's easier to get depressed and mopey. And, you know, it's interesting. I'm not immune to that. Like this summer, I did Ironman Mont Tremblant in Quebec. So trained for 10 months and did an Ironman, had my fastest Ironman in 13 years, felt phenomenal, was great. My family and I, we wrapped it around having an amazing family vacation. We drove across Canada. We had this great, wonderful time. And then I get home and now I don't have a goal. And I felt empty and hollow and, you know, I don't want to use the clinical term depressed, but it was a low point for a while. Right. And so then I signed up for the Halloween half marathon to have at least a little something as a goal. And it helped. But then I did that race and it was great. But now I don't have a race in mind. And for me, that's one of my primary goals is races. Like I have goals for my family to be healthy and happy and, you know, stuff like that. But I don't have a big pull. It's really hard. I struggle without a big goal. I always I need something to be pulling towards, whether it's a big family vacation or a race or doesn't matter what it is, buying a house or what, doesn't matter. I'm a goal person. I need something to pull me.
Wow, it's good to hear the mentality that brings you through the challenges. Because I think, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking, you know, most people would have stopped at my shoulder could only move that amount, or my hands messed up. Oh, well, that's my limit. Mm-hmm. But that goal pushed you through everything, and I think that more of us need those things. I think more of us need to think that way. Not necessarily we have to think extreme goals, but to have a goal and to push through and have a why of why we do things. Mm-hmm. So when you had doctors telling you would never be racing again, when you had people expecting you to just quit and have the limits, what would you tell yourself? Yes, you had the goal, but what would you tell yourself to get through it?
I have a pretty healthy disrespect of authority. When they say, yeah, you can't do that, I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know if you ever listened to David Goggins, like, you don't know me, son. It's like, because that's happened so many times in my life. It's just like, you just don't know me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I kind of learned that the hard way, because in 1984 in a gymnastics accident, I broke my back. I crushed the tops and bottoms of 3 vertebrae and cracked one in half. And I was told I would never play sports. I'd never run again. You should never do anything, because you're basically, the first doctor said basically my back is like ceramic. One false move and you're in a wheelchair. And one doctor actually said, you'll probably be in a wheelchair by 40, right? He told me this. I'm 15 years old. He said, you'll probably be in a wheelchair by 40. Don't do any risky exercises. So I lived my life for a while like I was made out of Christmas ornament. You know, like any one false move in your toes. And my back hurt all the time. It always ached. It always hurt. I could shovel the walk and I had to use painkillers. And, you know, it was brutal. And then I finally, it was like 6-7 years later, I was going to another doctor, another specialist. My back was always sore. And he's like, well, how much exercise do you go? Well, I don't do anything. And what sports? I don't play any sports. He's like, dude, you got to get in shape. Your muscles support your spinal column. If you don't have any muscles, it's just bone on bone. Of course it hurts. You need to get in shape. And I was like, oh, I was told I couldn't. No, your back's healed. Get out of here. So, right? And so then I went out and I started getting in shape, and I got in the best shape of my life, and everything changed, and I felt amazing, and I had no limitations all of a sudden. And I was like, you know what? Doctors aren't perfect. People don't know everything. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. And I started to really believe in the infinite capacity of the human body and the human spirit to grow. And so now when doctors say, you'll never, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I appreciate your opinion. Thanks for coming out. Like, it's, you don't have to listen. Are there limitations? Sure. There's all kinds of scenarios and situations, but you can still overcome. You can still, and one of the things I love to do is when I'm running, especially, is to listen to audiobooks. And I love to listen to audiobooks of famous people and hear their story. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent. I don't like rap, but his story is incredible. He's been shot 3 or 4 times. He's supposed to have been dead multiple times. Here he is. And his mindset of success. Will Smith, right, has gone through the craziest of things, still successful. Matthew McConaughey. I remember listening to Matthew McConaughey's autobiography, and he was talking about some of his childhood stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how did you get through that? And because I think we look at celebrities and stars and we just think, oh, it's easy for you. You just coast through. And when then you hear their life story and you're like, holy crap. David Goggins, like all these guys, like David Goggins has stories that are horrific, and he just overcame them. Like, and that's humans. We can overcome so much. We are so much more amazing than we give ourselves credit for. So you can't just give up when things are hard. Mm-hmm. And you can't wait till things are easy to shine. That's not how it works.
Right. So another thing I wanted to ask was, you have these big goals. You owned a gym. You had all the demands of life, family, everything. How did you balance it all? Because so many people, they would like to be fit. They would like to do all those things, but there's so many demands in life. What would you tell somebody who feels like those are limits?
I would say the big thing is it doesn't work.
Okay.
You make it work. It never works. It's never easy. It's never straightforward. Sometimes you have to train at 5 a.m. or 10 at night, or, like, it never works. Nothing works. You have to make it work. And you have to make it work because you want to, because it's important and it matters and it's relevant. Like, marriages don't work. You guys are married, you know that. Marriage doesn't work. It's not autopilot. Oh, we got married. I got the ring. Happily ever after. Boom, chug-a-lugga. No. You change. You're different people. My wife and I have been married 31 years. We're different people now. You have to make it work every day, and you have to choose to make it work, and you have to choose that eating well and exercise is important enough to make it work, because cooking great food is a pain in the tuchus every time. It's annoying. It takes longer. You got to have real ingredients. You got to shop for them. You got to prep them. You got to cook them. You got to, they don't last as long in the fridge. They're not instant. Meal prep is annoying. Exercise takes effort. It takes time. I don't feel like it. I'm not in the mood. I'm too tired. I've been a busy day. It never works. Ever. You have to make it work. You have to find ways to make it work because it's important.
Mm-hmm. And there are always going to be excuses.
Always.
Always reasons why. It's
always.
I don't want to get up,
yeah.
Go for that run, or
100%.
Whatever. Or it's just easier to go to a restaurant or whatever. Right? It's just.
Yeah. It's why we're in trouble as a society. Because pizza is always easier than making supper. And Netflix is always easier than exercising. Always. And like, if you look at human beings, we run on 3 key principles: seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. That's it. You can break all psychology down to those three things. Seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. Well, seeking pleasure, well, sitting on the couch watching Netflix, eating pizza is pretty pleasurable, right? Doesn't require any energy, right? But in 20 years, it's really painful because you're in trouble. And now it's a problem, right? You're 200 pounds overweight, and what do you do now? Your knees are rotten, your ankles are rotten, your heart's bad. Like, uh-oh. Yeah. We have to think of that now and realize that, sure, exercising is going to be painful at first, and it's going to require energy. But the more I do it, the less painful it becomes and the less energy it requires. Like, I can run a half marathon now, and it's not hard. It's challenging, but it's not hard, because that's within my zone. But at first it was ungodly painful. But we have to get past that initial discomfort to get to that place where it's easy. And you need to have a big reason why. What's your goal? Why do you want that?
How do you inspire that with the people you train?
There's lots of different ways, just trying to show them the rewards of it. And I mean, I'm 54 now, and I'm still fit and healthy and living a good life, and I'm not on any medications. Everything does what it's supposed to do, by and large, right? So my vision's not like it used to be, but I got reading glasses and stuff, never mind. But I think when people don't know what they want, I go, great, give me a list of 50 things you don't want. And then just start writing out the opposite. And then find something in there that moves you.
That's a great, great plan.
Because a lot of people don't know what they want. Great. Well, what don't you want?
Right.
I don't want to be really overweight and unhealthy. I don't want a sore back. I don't want to be weak. I don't want to have a bunch of pills and medications with side effects. I don't want to be broke. Okay, well, therefore, I want to be fit and healthy and able. Okay, well, what does that require? Well, that requires I exercise every day a little bit. That requires I eat well, So to me, we have to invest some time on being clear, because like I said, it's never going to work. You have to make it work. Nothing's on autopilot.
Yeah. And like, at least from what I have experienced, it's way more rewarding. Like, actually running, getting out there and exercising, it actually feels good. Like, yeah, like you're saying, you get those, like, the pleasure sensors, like the serotonin is like, it's engaged.
Yeah.
Like, that's
at the end.
Like, right.
Not at the start.
No, yeah. Like,
right?
it's like, yeah, after you're kind of like into it a little bit, you're like, yeah, this feels great. But it kicks in, like, you're just like, yeah, my body feels good. And then it feels good to look in the mirror too. Like, I mean, I'm fit. Like, this is, it's better. It's all around, like, that aspect of, like, I want to be able to, like, still go out and do stuff with my kids and, like, be active.
And have the
not,
energy
like,
for it.
Yeah, not be like, old and feeling it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like,
in my bed.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So, your documentary, it's free on YouTube.
It is, yeah.
So we'll put a link there. People can check it out. Where else can they find you? You're a personal trainer?
So my website's pretty straightforward, scott@scottyfit.com. So SCOTTYFIT. So scott@scottyfit.com. I do personal training, I do nutrition, I do coaching for endurance, and I also do keynote talks and trainings. So,
and this is not just local. You'll train people.
I go all over the place. Yeah, I've got clients in China, Ireland, the States. Yeah, online's neat that way, right? There's no limits anymore. So that's pretty cool.
That's great.
Well, thanks so much for being on with us, Scott. Tune in for part 2, and we'll get at that soon. So thanks for watching this episode.
And thanks for coming out, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me. I look forward to part 2.
Yay.